have an awesome guest on the show today. I have Kash Fadaie. Kash, great to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure to be with you and your audience.
Yes, I'm super excited to have you on because you're doing so many awesome things. And of course, before we jump in and have that phenomenal conversation, I want to read a little bit more about Kash and hear about some of those awesome things. And so Kash is the founder of Fadaie Insurance, an $11 million revenue agency he built from the ground up. Born in Iran and settling in the United States at the age of 11, his unique approach integrates spiritual practices with a business acumen shaped by his practices of transcendental meditation and education at Maharishi University of Management. Kash's vision extends beyond his current success. He aims to revolutionize the industry, specifically the insurance industry, by franchising Fadaie Insurance to 1,000 locations in 5 years while inspiring others to find purpose in their professional lives. And before I jumped into having this great conversation, me and Kash have had some phenomenal, I call them like pre-podcast interviews where we just kind of ripped off and had like phenomenal conversations around so many different things. But one of the really cool things I saw before preparing for this is that his entrepreneurial journey began at a young age when he first started his business at the age of 13. And one of the things I really love is as much as we want to love, the accomplishments, the things that people do, I think one of the things I really found peace in is that Kash finds solace in activities that nurture his mind, body, and soul. His interests range from the meditation that I talked about and all limbs of yoga and exploring higher states of consciousness. So Kash, you're a phenomenal person. Excited to have you on. Are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
I am so excited to be here. And yes, I'm ready.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Definitely. Well, let's get it started then. So to kind of kick everything off, I know I touched on it a little bit, but let's rewind the clock a little bit, hear a little bit more on how you got started with a Call Your CEO story.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, my journey started in 1974. I was born in the Middle East in Iran and had a pretty decent life. And then in 1979, everything went topsy-turvy in Iran. There was a revolution and, my folks were like, well, we got to get you out of here. And so we went as refugees. We went to Germany. And so we settled in Germany for 5 more years. So I had a culture change, right? I went from Iran to Germany, culture shock. And then I got settled into Germany and that was good. It was difficult, but it was good. And then right as I started to get, comfortable there, we had another journey to the United States. And so we came to Florida in 1979, 1980. I was about 10, 11 years old. And that's where we settled. And so that was another sort of, gradation of becoming acclimated to a new society. And in retrospect, I'll just say quickly that those adjustments, though they were difficult, now I know that they were sort of foundational in the decisions I would make later and who I am today. So it was those struggles that when I overcame them, by the grace of God, I became better and stronger. So that's sort of the setting, the context of my journey. And then once I got to Germany, I had certain desires, certain affinities, which we'll go into.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm so curious to kind of hear about that. But I love that you said that because I think so many times when we go through challenges and we face trials and tribulations and roadblocks, setbacks, all the things may seem to happen all at the same time. Yeah. We sometimes forget like how that sometimes can lay a foundation for us to show who we are to ourselves, but also to be able to kind of build that resilience and that perseverance that a lot of times we'll need further on in life.
100%. We don't realize it at the time of the circumstance. It's difficult because it's painful.
Right.
And it hurts and whatnot. And if we don't have certain people around us, perhaps it's important who we hang out with, right?
Yeah.
And then what happens is we get lost into that. But in retrospect, when you come through these things, like you said, Gresham, they are actually not your foes. They're your friends. They are your next level. So you then look at that and say, oh my goodness, my perspective changes now. And what is painful, perceiving its pain, is actually good for me in that sense. It's for me to grow through. So like there's a scripture in the Bible that says, I don't give thanks to all things, but I give thanks through all things. So that's kind of how that resonates with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely in the good book talks a lot around, those challenges, those pains that you have. Yeah. We count them as blessings largely because they do kind of refine like who we are very much so, like, iron sharpen iron, so to speak. and being able to do that. So I would love to kind of drill down more and hear a little bit more on that journey, which led you to kind of start to do all those awesome things. You said you kind of had some interest when you were in Florida that kind of, maybe sparked some of the foundation of what you're doing now.
When I got to Florida at about 10 years old, even in Germany at the cusp of coming to Florida, now around 8, 9, 10, 11, those age, that time, I wanted to, and I didn't know that then. I know that in hindsight. I saw the suffering, I saw the migration, I saw that my parents, all they did was work. And that's all. I mean, that's all the best that's the best they could do. And God bless them, but they were surviving. I wanted not to be that way. That was when I wanted what I didn't know what it was, but I wanted freedom. And notice the word freedom, right? Free, dumb, domain, free in this domain. I wanted freedom in this domain called Earth. In time and space, this third dimension that we live in, right? And so I began asking the questions in life. It's about the questions we ask. And I started to ask questions about, who is God? Who am I? Why am I here? What's all this about? I was introduced to the Bible and I started reading at an early age. I just started reading. I was just curious about those certain things. The other thing that was important, poignant that I want to share is I used to watch, cartoons, and I used to watch these heroes in these cartoons, and they had special powers. And I wanted to have a special power. I believed that I could have a special power, just like man and Superman and whatnot. And then I saw these figures in the Bible who had special powers. They had connection, right? Moses had a connection, and there was Yeshua, Jesus, and there was all these other people, Elisha, Elijah, and all these people. They inspired me, and I wanted to be one of them as a kid. I wanted to have that special power so I could create freedom in this domain. So that was what galvanized me, Gresham, to then go into reading. And when I started to read, I started to build up my vocabulary as a kid. And I started to develop these neural pathways into thinking more and asking more questions. And then, not to go too far into this, but there was these people in the Bible, Persians, Iranians, who were in this Jewish Bible. So I was like, why are my ancestors in this Bible? So that opened up all these rabbit holes. So I started searching about Persian history. So I got into Zoroastrianism, which is a pre-Abrahamic tradition from Iran. That opened the door to the Vedic tradition, which is in India. That got me into searching for, the Vedic tradition, which is, part of that is the Hinduism. And then that got me into Buddhism, and I got me into Sufism. Then it got me into shamanism. And so I just started opening up all these rabbit holes into one thing, which is, here's the common theme that I kept running into, which is know thyself. And so it turned out the answers were within. So then I said, okay, how the heck do I go within? Because the kingdom of heaven is within, and all this stuff. And I go, okay. So then I learned through a cassette. I was listening to Deepak Chopra at the time. This was 1998, 1997, 1998. I learned that meditation was a vehicle, a technology to go within. And then inside of this going within, there is a consciousness called pure consciousness, the fourth state. There's waking, dreaming, sleeping, but there's a fourth state, which is the soul, and that could be accessed through quieting the mind. And that's the next rabbit hole, everybody, that shaped, like the next chapter of my life, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, like, curiosity and being willing to go down that rabbit hole. I think is such a big thing because I think that says a lot about you and, just the possibilities and understanding that. And especially like at such a young age, like understanding like how powerful reading is. And not that you thought that you had superpowers, you said you believe that. And I think when you're in that space, especially I believe at a young age or really any time in life, I think it delivers a foundation of what can be the possibilities rather than not what can I do or what is it actually, it to me puts you in a place where you're asking different questions because you see from a place of more of limitless, of abundance mentality. And it seems like it puts you in a really, really strong place to be.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. And the more you ask those questions, the more answers come in. And this then builds on more knowledge, which brings better questions.
Yeah.
So more consciousness, more awareness, better questions come. And you see the cycle now. So more awareness, better questions, more clear questions, more clear answers. clear questions, clear answers. And now this is the cascade of more awareness, more wisdom, more knowledge, because you have more data points in your consciousness, more networks. So you're asking more, and now you go from belief. You started with belief, but now you go from belief to knowing, knowledge. So like picture a rocket has a rocket booster. The rocket booster is belief. You start with belief, but then at some point the belief has to fall off, and now the rocket keeps going to the source. Amen. This is knowledge and wisdom, and that's the difference between exoteric and esoteric. We start with religion, belief. I believe, I have faith. It's the rocket booster. We start that. That's the exoteric. But eventually we become mystics because now belief goes away, it gets discarded, and now we go into knowing, knowledge. And we realize our knowledge. It's not something that we have to discover. It is something we have to uncover. It's a veil that has to be lifted. We realize this later as we go towards the moon, so to speak.
Yeah, that's very interesting and fascinating, especially because you talked around knowledge of self being, so powerful and how those things come back to knowledge. And I think, as you said so well, like we're so often looking externally for all those things and for that peace and that knowledge and all those things where there's so much that's already within that we haven't ultimately kind of revealed. So I'm curious, like you going through this process, what led you to kind of be in that insurance space? Like, how did you end up there?
So good. Yeah. So it was beautiful that I got to go into this journey of introspection
Right.
because I didn't know what I wanted because I didn't know who I was.
Right.
So it's called the principle of the highest first, meaning step back and do this one thing before you do anything outwardly. Go back, get clear on who you are, and that's what meditation caused for me. Having stabilized this knowing, because the nervous system is now calmer, more refined, more sensitive, now comes the spark of inspiration and dynamism. And so then what happened was, Gresham, in that state of more and more clarity, there was this sort of download of a vision of being a person that was going to help others, solve problems, servitude. And I had this vision that I wanted to be a business person. I wanted not to be, a doctor or a lawyer. Those are great too. Anything, plumbing, whatever, electrician, all those things are wonderful. But for me, it was like run a company and then have freedom and teach others to have freedom. So this was sort of the inspiration that led to starting various businesses. So I started a grass cutting business in Florida at the age of 13. I had a Briggs and Stratton motor in my garage. And that time, middle school, we had mechanic shop class. I took this broken down mower, took it apart in shop class, put it back together, cleaned it up, put it back together, made it run. And then I was like, why don't I just cut my neighbor's yard? And so that's how it happened. I started that business, and it turned out to be a situation where my father had to help me because the route got so big. And then from there, I started various other businesses. And each time I succeeded and failed, the culmination of those, learnings paved the way to then in 2004, by virtue of the process of isolation. And because I had opened up, detail centers, car washes at that point each time. And I would started a produce business, and I started a souvenir store in Florida, a surf shop, and I got into the massage business, and I got into the, chefing. I became a chef, a raw food chef. And little by little, I just started the culmination of that led me to 2004 in Southern California, where I said, hey, let me embark on insurance because I had even done real estate.
Right.
But I said, none of it really was the thing.
Right.
But 2004, I tried insurance, and 2005, I loved it. And then in 2006, I started my own agency. So that's kind of how I got to insurance.
Yeah. I appreciate you breaking down that journey because I think so many times, we see all the things you've been able to do, the aspirations you have, the things you've been able to already accomplish. And you don't hear that journey. You don't hear about all the other businesses that you started. You don't hear about the journey of self-discovery that you went through and just all those things and how these aren't things that are silos. These are things that are fully intertwined because I imagine, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, of course, that you being able to achieve all the success that you have is largely because of what you did at 10 years prior to that, or 20 years prior to that, or five. I think it all starts to build up upon itself. And so many times we just want to look at things in silos and not take the holistic aspect of our lives and the journeys that we're ultimately on.
Absolutely. And I would say, to piggyback off of what you're saying, is remember when you're in the circumstances and there's pain, whatever you're going through. I always remind myself and would share with you that you are being prepared for something.
Yeah.
And you just have to build the infrastructure to be able to house that. You need to be prepared for what's to come. So if you look at it from that perspective, then you can take your energy and allocate it to the present moment more. So you're not lost in the future. You're not lost in the past. You are now present and you're there to serve. Whatever it is you're doing at this moment, you're here to serve. And when you do that, you're channeling your energy. And so you're able to accelerate your success because the preparation can be facilitated more seamlessly so that each stage you are being conformed, reshaped, molded so that, because remember, there is no time and space. There is that best version possibility of you already existing. How do we manifest that? And that is where I say, channel your energy into this present moment, focus on what you're doing, and be prepared. Allow preparation to come so that you can harness the correct light and energy for your next level and your next level and your next level. And that's what happened to me. I went through all these trial and errors so that in 2005, 6, I was mature enough to then be able to carry out the next various lessons, which led me to 18 years of being in this business. And in those 18 years, I went through a lot of different tests and different tribulations, which I had to overcome in order to finally succeed into where I am today. And I'm able to talk to you and your audience about, some of the cool things that I was privileged and graced to go through. And it wasn't me, I'm nothing. It was just that I was willing to pay the price, pay the painful price of waking up to who I am. That's all. I'm just a conduit. I realize now I'm just a conduit. And the more we let go and relinquish in the process, the easier and the more accelerative this journey of enlightenment becomes. And we become a host. We host the presence of the divine eventually at these higher states as we continue to let go, let go, let go. It's beautiful. Very beautiful journey.
Yeah.
Very beautiful journey.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I appreciate you so much in sharing that. And I think as everyone might be going through like trials and tribulations, things that might be happening. One quote I always like try to lean on is that everything's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And I think when you have that mentality of like you're being sharpened, you're being strengthened for a future time or a future experience, you start to realize that everything that happens is not necessarily good or bad, up or down, or any of those things. It ends up being just the things. And we ascribe a lot of that value to those things. So it ends up being like such a powerful place to be. So I wanted to drill down a little bit more, hear a little bit more on how you're working with and serving your clients, and a little bit more of what you feel is your secret sauce and what you feel kind of sets you apart and makes you unique. So what do you feel you all are doing, and what do you feel kind of makes that so unique and so powerful?
Yeah, the one of the most secret components, which is not a secret, it's like I always say, knowledge is ubiquitous today, right? You can find knowledge everywhere, but it's the application of the knowledge.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's scarce, which is why we need to be around people like Gresham and this audience right now. So everybody's listening is looking to improve. You're not trying to prove anything. You're trying to improve. That's why you're here. But one of those secret components is the convergence. See, in Western mentality, we look at work, play, spirit life. We compartmentalize things, right? I'm going to go to this building to receive some knowledge. And in the Eastern path or the mystical path, there is no separation. It's unity. So one of the things that we can do to quickly change perspective and accelerate higher states of consciousness is to merge our professional life with our spiritual life. What we then profess when we merge our spiritual life with it is the things of the spirit, which is a higher vibrational frequency, which is heart-centeredness. So if we learn to unify all of our life to be spiritual practice, no separation, then we bring the divine into our work, and then that exudes out of us. So the person listening to our information, they don't know, but covertly, they want to be with you. This is the mastery of sales. They want to be with you. They want to link with. There's something that they can't put their finger on, but they love you. There's a love. There's something. So this is what drives sales. When we're authentic, when we merge, unify, we become authentic. We bring our genuineness to the marketplace. And now we're not fretting. Check this out. We're not, this is the chasing after something is survival mode. When we shift perspective like this, now we are attracting. This is thrival mode. Because what? I'm content. I am content. I've discovered who I am. I'm in touch with the divine. I brought my spiritual life into my professional life. And so now I am content. I have gained. I'm content and I'm authentic. I can be myself. I'm giving permission to myself to be authentic. Now, the byproduct that, Gresham, the byproduct of that is success. It's the attraction is magnetic. Now we're leveraging electromagnetism. And so that is how I began to succeed and drive up sales, because you need sales. When you're an entrepreneur, you need to sell. No money's going to come in, right? So instead of focusing on getting money, I focused on, and this is a KPI, key performance indicator, becoming more of the authentic sacred self. It sounds woo-woo, Kash. I know, but that's the irony of it. This is the principle of the highest first. So that's one thing I wanted to share, is that more and more I bring in spiritual into the physical, into the professional. And then that causes sort of an infectious proliferation into my team members. My team culture changes to be that way, synonymous. My brand is synonymous to that. The website, the this, the that, the texting, the emailing, the phone calls, everything starts to become more and more benevolence, and there's patience now, because there's no rush. And so there's patience. All of these values now, these vibrations, patience, long suffering, the energy is changing. And when we're vibrating at those higher levels, we talk about the chakras a lot in society now, heart opens up, these higher vibrations open up. And now we're attracting more wealth to us. But we need the patience for that. And that also comes along with the bundle package.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. That when you're in that alignment, it ends up being so powerful because it does start to seep in, or is actually embedded in everything that you're doing. Ultimately, kind of like being part of that DNA. So I love that you've been able to kind of go through that process and journey. And I imagine that, as you said so well, starts to attract those, clients, customers, team members,
Yes.
franchisees, all those people start to become a part of that, because it allows that to be not just what you do, but ultimately like a part of the overall essence of what you're doing and how you're doing it. So absolutely love that. For people that are, thinking about like the franchise route, like
Yeah.
what are those some of the core elements that you look for in franchisees?
Yeah, that's good. Franchisees, what I'm looking for with people that, because I've succeeded in this space and I want to share it now with people,
Right.
and I believe in entrepreneurship. So what I'm looking for there, the people that work out really well are folks who have emotional intelligence and they have work ethic, because that's what you need as an entrepreneur, and grit, like this determination and obsession. They have to be obsessed. Like when you first start out, let's say you go and you want to start playing a sport. First, you like the sport. Okay. Then you do it. You like it enough where then you're committed to it. Okay. That's level 2. Okay, cool. You're committed to it. But if you want to become a superstar, you go from ordinary to extraordinary. Then that's the third level, is obsession. To be an entrepreneur, you have to be obsessed. And because there's going to be pain, and the pain, which we discussed, isn't your foe. You need to go through the pain to be refined. The fire is to take out our impurities, the dross, like gold. So we become 24 karat. And so entrepreneurship is just a spiritual practice. And so see how we look at this from different definitions now. We can say, oh, wow, okay, I never looked at it that way. Yeah, but those are the elements. And then when you come through that, because you are part of the group now, accountability, and we have these type of discussions every day on Zoom, because we're trying to converge spirit with profession, as we discussed earlier. So we find that these folks, then they don't have to have insurance experience. They come in and they learn and they grow. because the business, real quickly, nobody can part with insurance. It doesn't go away. You got to have it no matter what, right? So then it's 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 recession proof because you can't part with it. It gives you residual income because when a person renews their policy, you get a commission. Awesome. It's mobile. You can do it anywhere, anytime. You don't need a brick and mortar office, right? Consumers, they don't want to go to your office. They want to text you, email you, call you, right? You get flexibility. It's noble work because people trust you with their financial legacy. Remember, half of the New Testament scriptures is dealing with finances. So finances and heart. So people trust you and you want to protect that trust too. So that's another benefit of it. And AI can't really take over our industry because humans want to deal with humans in terms of us being a liaison to help them make more informed decisions. And so that's why I think it's a great business. And you're not even coming in to be a salesperson. You're more of an investor because when you sell an insurance policy, it has an 8 to 10 year shelf life. That relationship is kind of like a quasi stock. And as inflation rises and the price of the premium is also going to rise, your commissions are also going to rise. So you develop a plethora of clients. So you have a stream of income now, and you can build, a branch and learn to be like I am, a CEO. And that's what we teach. We teach people how to be an investor and a CEO. I like the Kiyosaki quadrant, rich dad, poor dad.
Yeah.
We take people from employee minded to self-employed, which is owning a job, to business owner, third quadrant, to CEO investor. That's what we do in this process of being a franchisee or a producer for the.
Yeah, thank you so much for breaking that down. I think that ends up being such a huge thing, that transformation that happens, and really understanding those foundational elements that you definitely look for is so huge because I think once you're able to understand that you can learn the insurance part, you can learn all those aspects, but those foundational elements, you want to make sure that those are in the DNA of the person as well too, so that it ends up being a really good match. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an Apple book or even a habit that you have. But what's something you lean on that makes you more effective and efficient?
Yeah, wow, that's great. The importance of building a morning routine and then eventually an afternoon routine, a quick one, and then an evening routine. Basically, just to kind of what I'm saying here is building the right habits.
Mm,
You don't have to have crazy DNA. We're all born with what we have.
mhm,
But what you can have control of is the right habits. So I would say get around the right people who are also committed to improving, and then build a morning routine and stick to it and derive energy from it. Don't waver from it. Stick to that and make it permanent. Bake it into your life. And then in that, once you develop those routines, you can add more layers to it because you will gain. I always call it, you'll taste the nectar of it. Once you have the routine and you follow it for a while, you will gain, but you have to be patient. You gain the nectar. What is the nectar? The benefit from it. Once you have that benefit, you will double down on it. You will understand the importance of it. You will not waver from it. Then you add layers to it. Meaning, you start off with exercise, you get benefit from that, all right? And you have oh, good. And then you can add meditation to it. And then you can add some breath work to it. Cool. And then you can add, oh, I'm going to fast now. Great. Now you fast. You see? And now I'm going to contemplate. I'm going to read more. I'm going to journal more, whatever. So life then becomes a complete spiritual practice. Then you think, okay, I'm going to bring that energy into my work now. And you see how that works. So I think the most important thing is that, building the right routines, being around the right people, and so that they can nurture that, have accountability.
Yeah, that ends up being such a huge thing. And I'm a king of butchering quotes, but there's a quote that say your days become your weeks, become your months, your months become your years, and so on and so forth. And that compounding, as we were talking about
Yeah,
investing, happens because the things that you're doing on a regular basis, those
that's
habits
it.
that you're forming. So I love that hack just because, again, I think so many times when we see people that have reached a certain amount of success and we're like, hey, I want to do that, we don't see the days that they put in, the weeks that they put in,
Yeah.
how those things start to compound to where
Yeah.
they're going.
Yeah, absolutely. And get to a point eventually where you're not stuck. Leave the outcome open. Have a goal, but do like you said, go in and out, day to day. Just keep staying on that, but the byproduct will naturally unfold. It'll naturally come. When you stop obsessing about when is it going to happen, you let go of that, then typically you start to go to the next level. So that will
Yeah.
come also. That's also the component of it, is that you just do it day in and day out. You're faithful and you do it. And the byproduct of that is success. It'll come. It'll unfold very easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I almost wonder, and I know we were talking about this a little offline before we started recording. I call it the pre-podcast conversation we were having, but I almost wonder if that is your nugget, because I think so many times we were talking so much on like how we get so obsessed on the destination, we forget about the journey. We forget about the day to day, that we're so obsessed. Like, why am I not there? That you get the kids in the back of the car. They're saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? We do the same thing. Is that maybe part of that nugget, or, piece of advice or word of wisdom you might even tell your younger business self, is to be present in the journey and not be so dialed into it has to be this, it has to be that
That's
destination, it
it.
has to go here. Do you feel like that's part of your CEO nugget?
100%. And now when you start out, it's just, yeah, I read about that. Sounds good. It's more on the level of belief. And I understand that. But it eventually, when it becomes a living reality, then now you're experiencing it. And and like you said, in retrospect, yeah, that's really the secret sauce, is being present and understanding that the journey is already the bliss. The journey itself is the key. It's like what you're looking for is already at hand. You may not feel it right now because you're in that belief. You only believe it. It's not experienced yet, but eventually you'll understand that, oh my goodness, it's this very journey that I'm on that is exactly what is supposed to be. This is it. The journey is the bliss. Because when you get to the summit point, all you have at that point is, look at all of these things that I went through to get here. It's so empowering. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's really the journey.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm having like this vision of like, people that I always said I wanted to go to all 50 states and be able to go there and just that, check that off the bucket list, so to speak. But I almost feel like that journey is the same thing that we kind of go through in life, where we're like, okay, let me go to this state. Oh, that's not it. I'm not feeling it. I go to that state. That's not it. I'm not feeling that. We lose sight of the steps that we're doing along that journey because we're so obsessed with the destination. We're so
Yes.
obsessed of where we're going that we lose sight of what the true bliss, the true opportunity is. And I feel like that's it's an unfortunate thing, because I think that so many people don't really understand that. And when we don't understand that, then we're not truly in on what we're doing. We end up throwing in the towel before we ultimately should.
Yeah. And if you want to take some of the biggest scriptures in, literature and humanity, like the Bhagavad Gita or the Bible or whatever, if you want to distill all of that book, all those beautiful scriptures that come from various traditions, into one phrase, I would say is let go.
Mhm.
That's it. Let go. Because in our egoic state, we find that life is working against us. It's a distortion. That's why we experience, oh my God, this, that. And, we're in the thick of the pain and the circumstances are not, they're all wacky, right? But it's really, as the nervous system, as we transcend, as we experience the soul more through practice, the distortions go away and we learn it's all about letting go. Because why don't we let go then, Cash? Because we have a lack of trust and faith. See, when we become more familiar with the soul level, then trust and faith gets higher, and letting go is easier. So it's a collaboration: more trust and faith, more letting go, more a lack of distortion, more clarity, more knowing what you didn't see before, because there was distortion before. Now we see more clearly, and we have more enlightenment, more aha moments. So really, the more we let go, more letting go, more relinquishing, relinquish from the outcome, relinquish the outcome. Because what you're saying then is the outcome could be even more infinitely great. I'm only looking at this outcome from my limited perception. When we have faith and trust, we let go, we're saying that to the divine, may the highest possibility come to manifestation. So it's really a caterpillar to metamorphosis to butterfly. It's a process that we go through, and we're doing it. There's a purpose of why are we even going through this? My goodness, why? Well, Not this is abstract, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but one way to put it is it's God having a limited experience through us. And our journey in this video game of life is to remember who we are. But that cannot be accomplished in a perfect state in heaven. So then we have space and time. God has to separate, or let's call it the unmanifest. God has to then become two. God is only one, but it has to become two. That's what space is. And then it has to put itself into a limited situation in time. That's space and time. So that's what this third dimension is. And I might have lost a lot of people right now, but it's another way to look at why is this even happening, right? It's just a game. It's not ultimate reality. This is nothing but a beautiful video game, but it's so darn real, highest technology, right? That we're duped into thinking that this is real. But it's just designed for us through free will to win in remembering who we are. And so the more we find this, who we are, the distortions become less. You remember the movie Matrix? We come out of the Matrix and we zoom out and we look at this and go, oh my God, like the Truman Show. That's a good movie. We look and say, oh my God, this is just a play. This is just a character that I'm playing. It's just a theater. This is just a narrative. That's my character. But my real self, when I go home after I shoot the movie, I'm myself. We have to come to a point where we can discriminate, discern what's real and what's not real. Because in the Course of Miracles, it says what is real cannot be threatened, and what is unreal, doesn't exist. What is unreal doesn't exist. And herein lies the peace of God, right? If we understand that, we reach moksha. In the Vedic tradition, that means liberation, freedom.
Absolutely. Yeah, everything definitely comes full circle towards what your vision was definitely in the beginning. So I wanted to
Yes.
ask you now my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. Our goals are different quote unquote CEOs on this show. So Kash, what does being a CEO mean to you?
To be rewarded with trust to carry out and host the mission to create freedom in people's lives. It's a high position. It requires for you to put everything in, all the chips have to go in, and be willing to be transformed, metamorphosized into a person who is going to serve at the highest level. That's what it means. That means completely complete conductivity to parlay servanthood, to create benevolence in life. That's what a CEO is all about.
Nice. I absolutely love that definition. Again, kind of going back to what you talked about, seeking that freedom and realizing that a lot of times when we get to a place, it's not about what we can do just for ourselves, it's what we can do for so many other people. So I love that that came full circle in terms of making that impact for so many others. So Kash, truly appreciate that definition. Of course, I appreciate your time even more. So what I wanted to do now is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional that you can let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best people can get on view, find out about the franchisee, the business, all the awesome things that you all are doing.
Yeah, thank you. Basically, if anybody listening is interested in, higher states of consciousness, you want to talk about that, I'd love to talk about that. As I said, I converged my life is just about spiritual ascension. So you can reach me. My name is Fadaie, Fadaie, Fadaie Insurance. If you Google me, you can find my website, my phone number's there. You can chat with me. I have a chat there. Anyways, or my email, Kash, Kash at FadaiiInsurance.com. Or if you're interested to be an entrepreneur, you want to, change careers and you want to learn insurance. That's awesome. I'm the guy that can help you with that. My 20 years, I've taken all the pain points of what an insurance agent CEO has to endure. I've taken all the pain points, and I distilled it and I created remedies for it. And those remedies is what the franchise opportunity is. So that's another reason you can get a hold of me. If you want to learn meditation, for example, that too. And I'm available in those areas. So spirituality and entrepreneurship, that's kind of my thing. So yeah, touch, anytime. I'll be honored to connect with you.
Absolutely. Honor is definitely all ours, Kash. So I truly appreciate that. Of course, to make it even easier, we're going to have the links and information in the show notes as well, too. So that everybody can follow up with you, find out about all the awesome things that you're doing. But I truly appreciate you again for taking some time out to be on the show. I think so many times when we go through life and we go through the journey, we have to put this mask on, and then over here we have to put another mask on. But I think when we think either, it's not either or, it's both and better.
Yeah.
I say often, if you run your own race, you can't lose. And I think so many times we say we're only running this part of the race because this part is only accepted. But in actuality, when we can bring all of our true self together, it's when really phenomenal things can happen. So I appreciate you so much in doing that and setting that lead and reminding us of how important that is. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.